How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to more Mark 7 content. Everyone's favorite daily driver super hatch. I'm going to call it a super hatch. Bite me. Today, I'm going to continue my campaign for the ultimate daily driver status of this two-door GTI. The way they should have come from the factory, no matter what. If you have a four-door GTI, love you, but two-door's better. So far, we've done brakes, we've done sway bar, we've done exhaust, and we've done a blow-off valve. The only thing left, in my mind, for drivability and for fun factor is a short shifter. I happened to be looking through ShopDAP a couple of months back and I found one that really interested me because I have not seen any coverage of it so far. That could be because ShopDAP did a great video installing it. That could also just be because no one's noticed it yet. So I picked up ShopDAP's HolyShift. Do I have to censor that? This short shifter is a little bit different and includes a different style of mounting for the shift cables in this car. And I'm hoping that it gives me a much shorter throw because in this car, the shift throws look like this. I would almost say it is as bad as my Mini was, which had a short shifter and was still quite a long throw. It was a truck shifter before the short shifter. Now, I don't really have anything else to say on that note. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna get you all set up facing where you need to be. And I'm going to start taking stuff apart so we can get into the install. And I have a couple of disclaimers here and there that you're going to want to pay attention to if you're following along. So let's jump into it. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is put on a pair of gloves and grab some type of pliers, channel locks, anything like that so you can get this clip off back here. All this is going to do is just make it so you can take the air box off without having to remove this whole intake hose back here. And the gloves are so that in 10 minutes when you get tired of them or get frustrated with them, you can take them off and basically negate the whole purpose of having gloves. Alrighty. Second thing you're going to want to do is remove this hose over here. This is, I can't remember actually, I'll put it on the screen somewhere, but it is something you're going to make sure you want to put back on later. Your car's going to run like absolute dog shit. And then if I'm not mistaken, there's two posts back here that this thing is hooked into, so you just give it a little bit of an upward oomph and it will come right out. There's one. There's two. And then you're gonna have to work it out from this. This is your cold air intake. It intakes air from up here, shovels it into the intake. And you're going to just have to work the air box out of the way. So at this point, if you look down here, this guy right in here is the top of your shifter. You can see as you press on it, it will want to move. That is what we will be replacing with the ShopDAP kit. But since this is something that you're going to actually want to see and not just watch me do it by feel, I'm also going to remove the battery as it sits directly over top of most of it, and the battery tray, I should say. Now you can also remove this hose here too. I think I should be okay there. If it does start getting in the way, I will remove it, but yeah. So at this point, if you don't want to remove all of this, you can start following me from right here. Right, so now we are at a point where we can see the shifter. Again, this is your actual shifter mechanism. These are your cables, and this is the witchcraft that makes gears happen. Here, I need to point out one thing. This bolt on top of the actual shifting mechanism here is attached to something that goes the entire length of your gearbox. If you break that bolt, you need to replace that entire shaft, and it is a pain in the rear. Or you need to replace your gearbox, which is an even bigger pain. So be careful. The bolt on top of that is a 13, and we will be loosening it, not removing it. And I also would like to point out that that bolt in my gearbox was already loose, which is probably why my gearbox shifts so sloppy. So what you're gonna do, put this in, give it a couple turns. So now you are loose. Now at this point, we are going to go get in the car and we are going to go add our lock pin. That comes in the kit. You can use a drill bit if you did not get one in the kit. We will then come back and we will lock the gearbox itself because we do not want any of this moving as well, as it will cause us issues when we go to try to line the cables later. So let's jump in there now and let's get this all locked up. Alrighty, welcome to the car and welcome to your manual shifter. Now from here, this isn't going to actually change. You aren't going to lose the golf ball. That is good. But what you will need to do from here is you will take this tool that they included in the kit. This is going to be your locking system to stop this from moving side to side or front to back while you are manipulating things in the engine bay. So what you're going to do is you're going to open this up, take your hand, put your fingers under here. There's a little opening on both sides that you can sort of feel. You're going to pull up. There's 2 tabs back here that will stop it from doing that if they work. Mine appear to be a little bit used. And then from here, as I said, mine has been used and abused. There's a little hole in that boot right there, you'll see, that goes through and goes down to this little piece of plastic that then goes down further into the chassis. All right, so you see down there, there's a hole in this, and there's a hole in this plastic piece right there. If this were normal, you would have to shove it through there and you'd have to do it by feel. In my case, I can just stick this through here, stick it in there, and it will lock it into place. You can see, I mean, this is still very movable, but you can see that it is not, this is in place and it will not want to move. So now let's jump into the engine bay and take care of the locking of that part of the gearbox. So at this point, I'm doing my best to light this because it is quite dark down here, but this thing that my magnet is pointing at, this little arm right here, is your gearbox lock. Volkswagen integrated it into the gearbox so you don't have to worry about it. So now what you're gonna do from here is move this top hat right here that everything attaches to and try to turn and slide this into the gearbox so that it locks everything in here in place. Alrighty, so by now most of you have noticed that that cut abruptly as I was trying to figure that out. And that is because that lock pin I was just telling you about in my gearbox is broken. So really at this point you've got 2 or 3 options. Number 1, leave the shifter on the car and deal with the slightly longer throws. Number 2 is you can do everything the same way that I'm about to show you. It's going to be more difficult, but it is still possible. And number 3, which is slightly less conventional, is to replace the pin, which is possible, it's just a lot of work, and then find whoever sold the car to you and saw at least one of their table legs down a couple of inches so that it always rocks, just to really annoy them. So I'm going to do a mixture of 2 and 3. So let me go find a file. I'll be back in a few hours. So the next step here is going to be freeing the actual shifter at this point, which is going to be freeing them from these cables. These are your shift cables. It's really easy to take these off. And again, at this point, if you are keeping up, if you have a broken lock pin, this is all going to still want to move, so just keep that in mind. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab this just like that. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally skipped a step there. So what we're going to need to do from here, I started to pull those off and realized I totally skipped a step. This metal clip right here, you're going to want to remove it. Just pry it up and it'll come right off. You see there's this little tab here. You just get a screwdriver up under here, pick it up and slide it off. I don't think you'll need this again, so you can lose this or don't, just in case. And then yes, you just pull this back and it comes right off. That's what you'll do, just so in case you didn't see that. You just slide this back, those 3 arms open up and you can slide it off the cable and then put it back on, which you won't ever need this again. You just let it go. All right. Again, same thing as the other one. This one does not have a clip on it, although I'm very much inclined to believe it should, so I think whoever put this back on here didn't do it right. This one's in lock position, but again, you see same 3 fingers, and you can just, pops out like that. and then you can slide it back, and same thing as the last one. Again, you now don't need this anymore. These rubber bushings go bad and cause problems. So now at this point we just need to remove this little white guy right here. This is just like a plastic clip, just like the other one. It's just friction fit, so you can kind of just get a screwdriver up under there and pry it off. I assume it's a lot easier. So my little plastic retainer clip unfortunately did come off in 2 pieces. I do not need this again, so it's not that unfortunate, I guess. You see it would snap on like that. There's 2 little teeth here that snap onto this, which prevent it from coming off. And then from here, what you're gonna do, so now that this is loose, what you're gonna do is take this bolt out, being incredibly careful not to lose this, because this is the only bolt that you're going to need to retain. Now this is going to be a little difficult to get off, so just take your time. The shaft that is attached to is very delicate and can break, so just rock it off gently. Just like that. See, now we're off. We can tilt this one out and slide it out. So you see, there you go. Now both of these are out. These are both factory pieces, and they are as good as trash now. Maybe hang on to them in case you ever want to sell your car, but these are now useless. This is the piece that you're going to need to do first, I think. Don't quote me on that. You're going to need these 2 pieces. This shaft comes in the kit, as well as this arm. Look how good that looks. You're going to stick it in here. You'll see that the part of the bolt is recessed into it, which will stop it from wanting to turn. And you will screw the nylock nut in the other side. So this is what it should look like before it goes on the car. Make sure this is flat and not like picked up out and turned a little, or it will not seat in there properly with the bolt on and tight. Now this is going to go in here, just like that. These little inserts go into that shaft before you stick that through. I knew that, and I was just doing it for video, and I didn't intend to forget them like that. These slide through, that little shaft goes through, so they will go in, one on this side and one on this side. So just like that. Now it is a little bit better of a fit and probably won't squeak as bad on you. Because I imagine that's why they have you do that. There you go. So now this is retained in and set. We can move on to the next part. This beautiful piece of machinery. I think this looks absolutely incredible. And now for this, you will note there are splines in there. But one of them is a little larger than the rest of them. This one is that one is a directional indicator, and this will only slot in one way because of that. Put it on here. Don't press it down if it doesn't want to go. Make sure you have this. Oh, actually, before we do that, I'm going to grab a towel actually and clean these threads off. I don't know what grease they put onto this, but it's kind of gross. There, so now that's clean, and I'm gonna go grab some new grease. So now I'm gonna use a Liqui-Moly installation paste. You've seen me use this before. It's just because I really like Liqui-Moly stuff. Actually, I'm just gonna dab a little bit on my finger. And then spread it around on the splines right there. All right, now let's put the part on. And I'm gonna wash my hand real quick because this stuff is like anti-seize. I will be finding it forever. There we go. Now ShopDAP was nice enough to give us a new bolt for that so that it matches your pretty new hardware. And I would also imagine because they don't want you to have to try to reuse that old one. Don't tighten that all the way yet. You're going to need to be able to move this around a lot. Again, this wouldn't be as hard if well, if everything was set properly. Now it is time to put these cable linkage holders in. They come in 2 pieces and you screw them together. I did this all off camera because you don't need to see me put a bunch of these nuts in here and, you know, screw everything together. This is quite easy to do actually. All of these are recessed, so once you get the nuts in, you just start screwing them in and, well, you know, Bob's your uncle. However, if you have one of them out and you start screwing these in, they can get stuck sideways like that, and when you start tightening it, they will not recess, so you have to make sure that they're all recessed into their little holes. Now, the one thing I will say I don't like about this kit so far is that all of the hardware they give you are Allen key, or Allen, or whatever the hell you want to call them, and I'm not a huge fan of that because it means you do have to have special tools, but Allen isn't exactly the most expensive thing to buy of all times, so they will get to live for now with properly mounted table legs. So most of you are probably just screaming at me through the TV screen there that I have forgotten something, and you would be right. This little piece right here with the DAP logo on it should have gone in that peg right there, and I'm amazed I didn't notice this, but this is supposed to go between these two and stop there, you know, make sure everything moves around the proper way. If you don't have that there, you will not be able to get most of your gears. So I'm glad I figured that out now while I was reading the instructions. No. What a stupid mistake that would have been. All right, momentary stupid out of the way. The momentary stupid does not appear to have ended. Sorry. Didn't mean to get everyone's hopes up there. There we go. That's so much better. God, that was just dumb. With the momentary stupidity now out of the way, now we can move on to the cables. All right, so here's where we are going to have to get a little more careful with this. So if these cables are put in incorrectly, you will not have access to certain gears. So I have been talking to someone who has done this properly before without the locking pin, and I have a pretty decent idea of how to do this. So here's what's going to happen. Using my hand, I'm going to push this down and pull the cable forward, and then reach down here with this. Oh, I'm not going to be able to use this. All right, so I have now found a much smaller wrench, but I'm now worried that I'm going to drop the, yep, okay, just like that. It would help if this induction line wasn't right here. Man, if only this car wasn't turbocharged. So far, the only thing I don't really like about this kit is the amount of Allen bolts. But besides that, it's not really that bad. All right, so the forward motion is taken care of. Now we just need to do the front to back. All tightened up in there, and the cable now wants to move with this. I started to say this earlier and I got distracted. These guys right here are omnidirectional, so you can screw these in this way. The only thing that they said to watch out for if you do that is if you have the battery tray in, it's a lot harder to get at them with it like this if the battery tray's in, but if I ever have to adjust these again, I will just take the battery tray out. So, same procedure, press down. And tighten. All right, so now that we are back in the car, everything up there is all nice and snugged, except for one thing, but we will deal with that in a second. I'm going to pull this out, and then I'm just going to go through this. There's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Okay, so all the gears are there. Oh, wait. There's reverse. So now all the gears are there, which means I'm going to take this and put it back. All right, so now this is locked again, but this is something you do want to check. You don't want to button everything up and then, you know, have to go back through everything. So now let's go back and finish up one last step before we put the car back together and try driving it. All right, so the last step here is to tighten this bolt right here. It is a 13, you're gonna need an extension. Okay, so I have the torque wrench. It is set to 25 Newton meters. For you Americans, I'm assuming I will put that on the screen somewhere for the people who don't want to try to figure out what those communist units are. Okay. That's actually legitimately scary, I'm not gonna lie. 25 Newton meters, do not over tighten it. That shaft goes the entire way down through the gearbox and it is a pain in the rear, according to everyone I've talked to. That is the biggest disclaimer I will give you about this. If you've made it this far and you are still on the fence whether or not you want to do this, let me just say, this is the hardest thing I have ever done on this car. That's not hyperbole, that's not a joke, it's nothing of the sort. This legitimately is complicated and difficult. This kit is very difficult to do. It is very worth it. I was just playing with the shifter. It is way shorter than the OEM shifter. But with that said, if you are a novice, if you have never turned a wrench in your life, consider a different one. Please. Let's put the battery tray in now. Let's put the airbox back in, and let's see if this thing actually shifts into gear while the car is running. Okay. All right, there's reverse. There's first. That's third. That's fifth. All right. Everything seems to be working. And this entire car is pissed off now. So now something I've discovered. I kind of forgot about this. I knew it was going to happen, but this car doesn't like to have its battery disconnected for that long and is now royally pissed off. So I'm gonna go drive it for a couple of minutes before I do anything with you guys, and then I will come back and possibly tomorrow we will do a driving or something of that sort because this thing is currently screaming at me about its stability control and stuff. So I will talk to you tomorrow. Alrighty, I'll keep this quick because that install took a lot longer than I expected. What are my thoughts on this? I've had it in the car for about 2 weeks now. I have driven it to and from work, on back roads, and pretty much any situation you could come up with where you would notice a short shifter, and it's fantastic. This thing has cut the shift throws down by a significant amount. The one thing I don't like is the lack of counterweights or anything on the actual assembly that moves means that you really kind of have to heave it into gear. And it made me realize that my second gear synchros aren't as good as they probably ought to be. Maybe I need to just do a transmission flush. The car does have nearly 100,000 miles now. But this shifter is fantastic. I know it was a pain to get in. I would recommend it. The pain is worth it. This thing is fantastic. Shifting between gears is so good. Downshifting is fantastic. I don't really know. I've said fantastic so many times now. I sound like Christopher Eccleston. With that said, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful and I hope this has persuaded you to get this. ShopDAP is an incredibly good company that really deserves this love. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you love Mark 7 content, leave me a comment down below and tell me which one you have and why the two-door is the best. But as always though, thank you for watching. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much. If you're new here, go check out another video. But as always, peace out everyone.